the forbidden taste, the research vessel Pioneer's dream shuddered violently as it plummeted through the atmosphere of Valthara, its hull screaming against the alien air. Marcus Chun gripped his seat harness with white knuckles, watching helplessly, as warning lights painted the cockpit in angry red. The navigation systems had failed 3 hours ago when they'd encountered an unexpected electromagnetic storm. Now, gravity was dragging them down toward an unknown world that wasn't supposed to have any intelligent life. The impact came like thunder. Marcus felt his consciousness slip away as the ship carved a burning furrow through purple grasslands, coming to rest against a grove of towering crystalline trees that chimed like bells in the alien wind dot when Marcus awoke. Pain was his first companion. His left arm hung at an odd angle, definitely broken, and something warm and sticky ran down his forehead. The acrid smell of burning electronics filled his nostrils as he struggled to free himself from the wreckage. Emergency power cast everything in a dim blue glow, and through the cracked viewport he could see an alien sky the color of deep amber. With 2 small moons hanging like silver coins above the horizon, his communication equipment was destroyed. The ship's hull breached in multiple places. Marcus gathered what supplies he could salvage: a water purifier, emergency rations for 3 days, a medical kit, and his portable scanner. The planet's atmosphere was breathable, according to his instruments, though it contained trace elements that might prove problematic over time. He had no choice but to leave the relative safety of his crashed ship and seek help or shelter. The landscape of Valthara was hauntingly beautiful. The purple grass swayed in patterns that seemed almost choreographed, while the crystalline trees produced haunting melodies whenever the wind touched them. Strange flowers dotted the plains, their petals shifting through spectrums of color that had no names in human language. But beauty could be deadly, as Marcus soon discovered. He'd been walking for barely an hour when the first symptoms began. Dizziness struck him like a physical blow, followed by nausea so intense he collapsed to his knees. His portable scanner beeped frantically, detecting alien toxins in his bloodstream. Despite the atmospheric compatibility, something in this environment was slowly poisoning him. Perhaps it was pollen from those color-shifting flowers, or spores from the musical trees. Whatever it was, his human immune system had no defense against it. Marcus forced himself to keep moving, following what appeared to be a game trail through the purple grasslands. His vision blurred, and each step became a monumental effort. The broken arm throbbed in rhythm with his heartbeat, and cold sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the warm alien air. He estimated he had maybe 6 hours before the toxins overwhelmed his system completely. That's when he heard the singing dot. It wasn't like the melodic chiming of the crystalline trees. This was a voice, hauntingly beautiful and utterly alien, rising, and falling in patterns that seemed to resonate in his bones. Marcus stumbled toward the sound, hoping against hope that he'd found intelligent life that might be able to help him. The singing led him to a clearing, dominated by 7 standing stones arranged in a perfect circle. Each stone was carved with intricate symbols that seemed to shift and flow when he wasn't looking directly at them. In the center of the circle stood the most beautiful creature Marcus had ever seen. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin was the color of polished silver, marked with intricate patterns that glowed with soft bioluminescence. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with limbs that seemed too long and graceful for human proportions. Her hair fell like liquid starlight to her waist, and when she turned toward him, Marcus saw eyes like pools of liquid amber that held depths of intelligence and ancient wisdom. The creature wore robes that seemed to be woven from the same material, as her glowing skin patterns shifting and flowing with each movement. In her hands, she held a curved blade that gleamed with the same inner light, and Marcus realized with growing horror that she was using it to cut precise lines along her forearm. Silver blood, bright as mercury, dripped from the wounds onto the stones below, where it pooled and began to glow with increasing intensity. She hadn't noticed him yet, lost in her ritual and her otherworldly song. Marcus tried to back away, not wanting to interrupt what was clearly a sacred ceremony. but his weakened legs betrayed him. He stumbled, crashing through a cluster of singing plants, and the sound echoed across the clearing like a discordant alarm. The alien woman spun toward him, her amber eyes widening in shock and fear. She spoke in a language that flowed like music, but his universal translator had been destroyed in the crash. Her voice carried tones of authority and warning as she raised her blade defensively, silver blood still streaming from her self-inflicted wounds. Marcus raised his good hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. But another wave of poisoning struck him. He collapsed to the ground, convulsing as alien toxins ravaged his system. Through blurred vision, he could see the woman approaching cautiously. Her blade still ready, but her expression shifting from fear to curiosity. She knelt beside him, her silver fingers touching his burning forehead. She spoke again, her voice softer now, almost gentle. Marcus tried to respond, but only managed a weak groan. The world was spinning, colors bleeding together in impossible ways. He could feel his heart racing erratically as his body fought. A losing battle against the alien environment. That's when he saw the blood. Her silver blood had pooled on the stone where she'd been performing her ritual, glowing with that same inner light that marked her skin. In his delirium, Marcus's scientific mind made a desperate connection. Her blood clearly contained compounds that could interact with the planet's environment. Perhaps it held antibodies or neutralizing agents that could counteract the toxins killing him. It was insane. It was dangerous. It was probably the worst decision he'd ever make, but he was dying anyway. With the last of his strength, Marcus crawled toward the pool of silver blood. The alien woman saw his intention and cried out in alarm, rushing toward him with her blade raised. But she was too late. Marcus pressed his lips to the stone and drank deeply of the glowing liquid. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Fire raced through his veins, but not the burning agony of poison. This was different. A cleansing flame that seemed to scour away the toxins and replace them with something entirely new. His broken arm stopped throbbing, and he could feel the bones knitting themselves back together with impossible speed. His vision cleared, but it didn't just return to normal. Everything became sharper, more vivid. He could see details in the alien woman's skin patterns that had been invisible before, could detect subtle color, variations in the purple grass that revealed the health and age of each blade. But the changes went deeper than enhanced senses. Marcus could feel something fundamental shifting in his cellular structure, his DNA rewriting itself to accommodate the alien compounds now coursing through his bloodstream. Images flashed through his mind, not his own memories, but glimpses of alien landscapes, of ceremonies conducted under foreign stars, of knowledge accumulated over millennia. The alien woman was screaming now, her musical voice raised in what sounded like horror and outrage. She gestured frantically at the empty pool where her blood had been, then at Marcus, her amber eyes blazing with an emotion he couldn't identify. She kept repeating the same phrase over and over, and somehow, impossibly, Marcus began to understand. That's my blood human. Stop drinking. The words formed in his mind as clearly as if she'd spoken them in English. But there was more layers of meaning that human language couldn't convey. Sacred blood, life essence, forbidden to outsiders. Ritual defiled. Marcus tried to speak, to apologize, to explain that he'd been dying and had acted in desperation. But when he opened his mouth, sounds emerged that weren't entirely human anymore. Harmonics and undertones that carried emotional weight beyond mere words. "I'm sorry," he managed, the words coming out in her own language. "I was dying. The poison ... She stepped back as if he'd struck her. Her silver skin grew pale, and bioluminescent patterns flickered like a candle in the wind. She spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "You understand our tongue? You speak with the voice of the bonded. What are you?" Before Marcus could answer, the sound of approaching voices echoed across the clearing. The alien woman's head snapped up, her expression shifting from shock to fear. She grabbed Marcus's arm with surprising strength, pulling him to his feet. They come, she said urgently. The guardians hunt the defiler. You have drunk of sacred blood. They will capture you, study you, dissect you to understand what you have become. Marcus could hear them now, multiple voices calling out in the same musical language, organized and methodical like a search party. Through his enhanced senses, he could detect their scents on the wind, could feel the vibrations of their footsteps. Through the ground. Why are you helping me? He asked as she led him away from the stone circle toward the edge of the clearing. She paused, her amber eyes meeting his. In them he saw confusion, fear, and something else, a connection he couldn't fully understand. Because what you have done should be impossible, she whispered. Our blood is toxic to all other species. It should have killed you instantly. Instead, you have bonded with it, absorbed its essence. In all our history, no outsider has ever survived the sacred blood. The voices were getting closer. Marcus could see lights moving through the purple grass, and his enhanced hearing picked up the whir of unfamiliar technology. Whatever was coming for him, it wasn't friendly. I am Lyra Zeth Kara, the alien woman said as they reached the tree line. Princess of the Velthari. And you, human, have just become either our greatest hope or our greatest threat. She gestured. Toward the crystalline forest ahead. Run, she commanded. And pray to whatever gods you worship that we can stay ahead of Commander Thane and his hunters. Because if they catch us, your newfound abilities will be the least of your concerns. Marcus looked back at the approaching lights one last time, then followed Lyra into the singing forest. Behind them, angry voices rose in the clearing as the search party discovered the defiled ritual site. The hunt had begun, and Marcus Chen was no longer entirely human. The silver blood had changed him in ways he was only beginning to understand, creating a bond with this alien princess that transcended species and culture. Whatever he had become, whatever destiny awaited him on this strange world, there was no turning back now. The unlikely alliance, they ran through the crystalline forest for what felt like hours. The musical trees chiming their otherworldly songs as alien branches swayed overhead. Marcus marveled at his newfound endurance. His body seemed to have adapted to the planet's environment completely, drawing energy from sources he couldn't identify. The broken arm had healed entirely, and he could run at a pace that would have exhausted him within minutes before drinking. Lyra's blood. Lyra moved through the forest with the fluid grace of someone born to this world, her silver skin patterns glowing brighter whenever they passed through patches of deeper shadow. But Marcus noticed she kept glancing back at him with a mixture of fascination and fear, as if she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. This is impossible, she whispered as they finally stopped to rest beside a stream that glowed with bioluminescent algae. You should be dead. The sacred blood has never bonded with an outsider. In 3,000 years of our history, no alien species has ever survived even a single drop. Marcus knelt by the glowing stream, cupping the water in his hands. To his surprise, he could taste the mineral content, could identify trace elements. That would have been undetectable to human senses just hours ago. More disturbing, he could sense the microscopic life forms swimming in the water, could feel their simple thoughts like whispers at the edge of his consciousness. What exactly is this sacred blood? He asked, looking up at Lyra. What does it do to your people? Lyra settled gracefully beside him, her amber eyes reflecting the stream's glow. It is the essence of our connection to Velthara itself. When two Velthari share blood in the bonding ritual, they become linked not just to each other, but to the living consciousness of our world. We can sense the planet's moods, its health, its needs. We become part of something greater than ourselves. She gestured toward the forest around them. This is why we knew you were here even before you crashed. The planet felt your presence, your pain, your desperation. Through the bond, we experienced your emotions as if they were our own. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying this planet is alive? Sentient? Not in the way you might understand consciousness, Lyra replied. But yes, Velthara dreams. It thinks. And now, through the bond you should never have been able to form. It knows you too. As if in response to her words, Marcus suddenly felt it, a vast, ancient presence touching the edges of his mind. It was like standing at the shore of an infinite ocean of consciousness, feeling the weight of eons pressing against his thoughts. Images flashed through his awareness. The planet's formation billions of years ago. The evolution of the Velthari, countless generations of rituals and ceremonies that had strengthened the bond between species and world. But there was something else, something that made both Marcus and Lyra gasp in unison. The planet was showing him visions of space, of other worlds, of a great darkness approaching from the void between stars. Something that fed on life itself, leaving dead worlds in its wake. The Devourers, Lyra breathed, her skin patterns flickering. With distress, the ancient enemy our people have hidden from for millennia. But how could you see the deep memories? Even bonded Velthari require years of training to access such knowledge. Before Marcus could answer, the sound of pursuit reached them. Lights moved through the forest, and voices called out in the musical Velthari language. But now Marcus could understand every word. The trail leads this way, one voice said. Commander Thane wants the alien captured alive. The council must study what has happened here. How can an outsider survive the sacred blood? Another voice replied. It defies all natural law. This human must be destroyed before he can corrupt our world further. Lyra tensed beside Marcus, her hand moving to the curved blade at her side. Commander Thane leads the temple guard. He is bound by ancient law to destroy any who defile our sacred places. He will not listen to reason. Marcus stood, his enhanced, senses tracking the approaching search party. There were at least a dozen of them, armed with weapons that hummed with energy. But as he focused on their positions, something unexpected happened. He could sense their emotions through the forest itself, their fear, their anger, their confusion. The planetary consciousness was acting as a conduit, connecting him to every living thing within miles. I can feel them, he whispered to Lyra. Their thoughts, their intentions. The planet is showing me everything. Lyra's amber eyes widened. That level of connection takes decades to achieve. You have been bonded for mere hours. This should not be possible. The search party was getting closer. Marcus made a decision that surprised even himself. Instead of running further, he stepped into a clearing where the moonlight could illuminate him clearly. Lyra tried to grab his arm, but he shook his head. Running won't solve anything, he said. If I'm going to survive on this world, I need to understand what I've become. And I need them to understand it too. Commander Thane emerged from the trees first, flanked by 6 temple guards in ornate armor that seemed to be grown rather than forged. He was taller than Lyran, with skin patterns that pulsed with authority and age. His weapon was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, a crystalline staff that resonated with the same frequency as the musical trees. Outsider, Thane spoke, his voice carrying harmonics of command and disgust. You have defiled our most sacred ritual. The penalty is death. Wait, Marcus said, raising his hands peacefully. I understand that I violated your customs, but it wasn't intentional. I was dying from poisoning. I acted out of desperation, not malice. Thane's expression shifted to one of shock. You speak our language? You understand our words. This is impossible. No alien has ever mastered the deep tongue. The sacred blood. Bonded with him, Lyra said, stepping out of the shadows. Several guards gasped when they recognized her. Princess Lyra? Your father has been searching for you. Why do you protect this defiler? Because he is not a defiler, she replied firmly. Look at him with your bonded sight, Commander. See what? The planet sees. Thane's skin patterns flickered as he focused his enhanced perception on Marcus. What he saw made him step back in amazement. Where he expected to see an alien presence corrupting the natural order, he instead found something unprecedented. A human consciousness that had somehow integrated perfectly with Velthar's living network. This is impossible, Thane breathed. He radiates the planet's own energy. The bond is not fighting his alien nature. It has embraced it. Marcus felt the moment like a shift in the very air around them. Through his connection to the planetary consciousness, he sensed wonder replacing hostility in several of the guards. But Thane's second in command, a fierce warrior named Kethvar, was less impressed. Impossible or not, he is still an outsider. Kethvar snarled. The law is clear. No alien may participate in our sacred rituals. The contamination must be cleansed. He raised his own weapon, but Marcus was ready. The planet had warned him of Kethvar's intentions seconds before the warrior acted. Marcus moved with speed that surprised everyone, including himself, rolling aside as an energy blast scorched the ground where he had been standing. But instead of fighting back, Marcus did something that stunned the assembled Velthari. He placed his palm against the ground and opened his mind completely to the planetary consciousness. Through him, Velthara itself spoke to its children. The voice that emerged from Marcus carried the weight of geological ages, the wisdom of countless seasons, the patient love of a world for its inhabitants. It spoke in harmonics that no single Velthari throat could produce, telling the guards things that only the planet itself could know. It spoke of the coming darkness, the devourers that even now moved between the stars toward their hidden sanctuary. It told them of other worlds that had fallen, because their inhabitants could not adapt, could not change, could not accept help from unexpected sources. And it revealed the truth that would change everything. The Velthari were dying. Their perfect bond with the planet, unchanged for 3 millennia, had become a trap. They had adapted so completely to Velthara that they could no longer survive elsewhere. When the Devourers came, as they inevitably would, the Velthari would have nowhere to run. Their beautiful world would become their tomb, but humanity was different. Humans were adaptable. They could survive in environments that would kill most species. They could bond with alien worlds and alien peoples while retaining their essential nature. They were the key to survival, the bridge between worlds that could carry the Velthari's knowledge and culture to safety among the stars. When Marcus finally released his connection to the planetary voice, the clearing was silent except for the musical whisper of the crystalline trees. Every Velthari present stared at him with expressions of awe and fear. The planet accepts him, Thane said slowly. Velthara itself declares him bonded, not defiled. This changes everything. Kethvar lowered his weapon, his aggressive posture, replaced by confusion. But he is alien, outsider. How can this be permitted? Because, Lyra said, softly, moving to stand beside Marcus, perhaps our definition of outsider needs to change. Perhaps the galaxy is larger and stranger than we imagined. Marcus felt the truth of it resonating through the bond. His transformation was just the beginning. Through him, humans and Velthari could form an alliance that would benefit both species. Human adaptability combined with Velthari wisdom could face threats that neither could handle alone. What do you propose? Thane asked, his tone shifting from hostility to cautious interest. Take me to your leaders, Marcus said. Let me show them what I've learned. The Devourers are coming whether we acknowledge them or not. But together, our species might have a chance to survive what's heading our way. Thane considered this for a long moment, his skin pattern shifting through complex emotional states. Finally, he nodded. The Council will want to examine you, he warned. They will test your bond, probe your intentions, question everything you claim to know. Are you prepared for that? Marcus looked at Lyra, seeing his own determination reflected in her amber eyes. Through their bond, he felt her support, her growing belief that this impossible joining of human and Velthari might be exactly what both species needed. I'm ready, he said. After all, I didn't come this far just to turn back now. As they began the journey toward the Velthari capital, Marcus reflected on how completely his life had changed in just one day. He had crash-landed as a simple researcher, dying and alone. Now he was something entirely new, a bridge between species, a herald of alliance, a living proof that the universe held possibilities beyond imagination. The sacred blood had indeed changed him, but perhaps that change would be the salvation of both their worlds. Behind them, The crystalline forest sang its ancient songs, and ahead lay an uncertain but hopeful future where human ingenuity and alien wisdom would face the darkness together. Marcus Chun was no longer just human, but he had never been more proud of what humanity could become. Asterisk.